Welcome to Behind Closed Doors. This is where we have a real personal and very frank conversation about anything. But I'm going to be doing a series over the next few months with some very talented women. And yes, they're business owners. Yes, they're entrepreneurs. But what is the reality? And I say that with a little bit of smile on my face, Leanne.
That's all good.
Because, okay, this is the beautiful boutique, Must Have Pockets.
Yes.
It's been, I'd say, a little bit over a year now.
It's been, it'll be a year at the end of this month.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, time flies.
Time has flown.
You're no stranger to the retail business.
No.
And you started this baby. What has it been like?
You know, I knew that there would be challenges, and I've been in retail a long time, like you said, so I have seen kind of the ebbs and flows of business, things I can control, things I can't control, but within, as a business owner for this last year for myself, it's really been about undoing all of the parameters in my mind. So I was in a corporate environment for many, many, many years, and I always had somebody to report to. So I was always accountable to other people, whereas now I'm accountable to myself. So I really had to undo that to say, it's up to me. I can pivot and change as I need. And so I would say that that's been one of my biggest learnings for myself is I signed up to be the CEO. Now I should be acting like the CEO, making the decisions that I need to make in order for me to be successful in my business.
Now, would you consider having a partner?
No.
Why not?
I actually wouldn't. You know, I don't say I have a lot of stories, but I would say that there's enough stories out there of partnerships in business where it started off with the best of intentions and two people who really wanted the same thing. And then for some reason or another, hearts get broken, trust gets broken, and I just don't want to ever put myself in that position where it could affect me financially in a really critical way. It's not that I don't think there could be potentially a good person out there that might come up to me and say, hey, Leanne, I'd love to partner with you. Part of me would love to relinquish some of that control that is all on my plate. But on the other side, there is relinquishing that control, I think might be the thing that, again, would be just too scary. So I like the idea of really it all being on me, because then I can also make the decisions where I'm like, you know what, we're closing up shop. Maybe just, I don't know, let's say in 5 years, I'm I'm going to go spend all my time in Mexico. I could do that because there's no one else that I really have to be accountable to other than my husband in our household, but I don't want to really be accountable to someone else.
Would you consider having a male partner, or are we only talking about?
No, I would never have a male partner.
Never.
Never. Never. Nothing against a man. Yeah. It's just that again, female or male, it's just that relinquishing. But on the other side, I think one of the reasons that I'm successful is I really wanted this to be from the perspective of a woman and what a woman needs. So, I don't think that a man would be able to bring in the proper perspective.
So how much good advice have you been given?
Good advice?
Does that exist?
The funny thing is, I know everybody's advice is all meant with nothing but the biggest and loveliest of intentions. And so I have received a lot of unsolicited advice, and I knew it would come. I knew that it was part of it. And at the end of the day, I take the good, I leave the bad. And that's that. It's just, again, it's about me being the CEO here and me making the best decisions for the company. And therefore it begins and ends with me. And so if someone says, hey, Leanne, because I've had a number of customers come in and they're like, you should carry this brand. Why don't you carry more of this? I love my customers, and if they're watching this, I love you all. I love you all. But at the end of the day, I've had customers who have said, Leanne, it would be great if you brought this in. I swear I will buy it. And then I have brought it in and they didn't come back for it. And so I didn't like invest the whole store. This didn't break me. But at the same time, you know, I just don't want to put myself in that position where, again, it puts me in a bad position, creates bad vibes between me and a customer or anything like that. So I just take it all with a grain of salt because that's all I can do.
That's all you can do at the end of the day. Now talking about customers, and I know you've dealt with them.
Yeah.
Have women become more picky, or have women lost their filters sometimes?
A little bit of yes, a little bit no. Like I would say the one thing that was probably the most surprising out of my customers this year was that I have a lot of ladies who I really appreciate who have come in a really trusting environment. Like they've come in and they've said, like, Leanne, I've never worn jeans because I've never been comfortable in jeans. Or they might have a body that they're not used to because maybe they've gained weight through menopause. We have many discussions about menopause in this store, and it's been lovely. Like that's one of the things I love. I love the conversations with my customers. And so some of those customers, it's like giving water to somebody who hasn't had a good drink of water in a really long time. They're just like, thank God there is something. So I definitely have those customers that are just, they're happy that I carry a basic t-shirt, a basic pair of pants. But then I do have actually I find the women that are the more petite women, the women that don't struggle with their weight, or, you know, basically they can choose from anything. Those are the women that are picky. They'll be like, I don't like the way this bunch is like right here. And I'm not gonna lie, like as a woman who's had trouble, there's a little bit of really in my head because I would love to wear that and look how great you look in it. And you're worried about like this little tiny nip somewhere. And so it makes me laugh. And I say this again out of pure love for my customers. But so I would say that's the ditch to ditch. Yeah. But for the most part, my customers have been lovely. They are very, like, they're just, they want me to be here. They're happy to support me. Customers come in and they might walk around and might not buy anything. And these might be really good customers of mine. So I know sometimes I don't have everything that somebody wants. That's the other thing I've come to understand is my store is not for everyone. Yeah. And that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
But I think that from the feedback that I've received so far, I have enough of what women are looking for that obviously
you're on the right track.
I'm on the right track. I'm on the right track to being successful.
And it's always a gamble. Now we're talking about support from obviously your customers and people buying your clothes, but now thinking about women in business.
Support. You know, that has been a really big challenge. There's a lot of great groups out there, which I truly appreciate. And it has been nice to sit amongst other women to just kind of say, like, you know, what are you seeing as challenges? But I would say that for myself, the biggest challenge is to be sitting in a room with other women who are doing the exact same thing as me. So I must admit, I've been very intimidated to make introductions to other women who are brick and mortar driven. Because ultimately, like when you sign a commercial lease, and for my lease, it's a 5-year lease, and I am obligated to that lease like anybody would be if they rented an apartment. So if I decide to go to business, I must sublet and all that stuff, like that's all on me. So when I'm having conversations with other women who don't run a business with brick and mortar, it is an entirely different set of parameters, I believe. The other thing was I did thankfully receive a loan from Women's Enterprise Center to fund this, and they have been a great partner, and I've really appreciated their support and getting this going. But again, I pay back that loan. So those are two massive expenses for me as a business owner that a lot of other women wouldn't have. So like if someone works out of their home, maybe they do massage out of their home, maybe they're a therapist, maybe they're a coach and they go to people's locations. Again, that would be just very different than
having a storefront.
Having a storefront and being obligated to those bills. So my success is really making sure that I'm paying my bills.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, that's the, like, and that's, it's not that I take less out of my pocket. Well, I do. Like, if I have a bad month, that means I just don't get as much in my pocket at that time. But on the other side, it's that, like, first and foremost, those bills need to be paid before me.
Yes.
And so I think that's the other big thing is, you know, sometimes when people are weighing what it takes to run a business, you know, there's certain things, like, I'm sure we'll get to it a little bit more, but more learnings about what I've kind of experienced is an expense is still an expense. So I've had different people say, well, like, you know, you could write that off at tax season. Like, let's say, for example, if I go out for dinner. Well, if I go out for dinner with, say, a sales rep, like, yeah, like, usually they foot the bill, but if I foot the bill for whatever reason, yes, I can write that off. Half of it. If I travel, then it all gets written off, and that's great. But if I decide, well, every time I go out, I'm going to, you know, have the company write off my meal, it is still an expense. So at the end of the day, those things, like, if you're like, oh, well, I'm going to buy myself a new purse and I'm going to write it off to advertising. You can't do that, by the way. But, you know, again, it's still an expense. So when you're looking at your overall profitability at the end of the month, what do you have to do? You have to reduce expenses or increase sales. That's really, that's the black and white. So if you're not making money in your business, reduce expenses or increase sales. And that's it. That's the magic sauce. Like, if you're wanting to start a business, that's it. That's the magic sauce. So, you know, so I think it's really important that you're really paying attention to those things. If you want to be honest with yourself as a business owner, those are the things you have to be honest with yourself with.
And do you think women are more susceptible to getting caught up in that whole, well, I can expense this lunch? No.
I think it's probably depending on the person. I believe that there's a lot of business owners out there who kind of probably are both ways. Like, you know, if they see the money coming in and they're like, well, there's money there to spend, so I can spend it, versus, you know, wanting to save some for XYZ. Like, I have a lot of new product coming in right now. I have to pay for all of this. So for myself personally, another thing that I've done is I have kind of, let's say, give or take, about 3 months worth of money in my bank account that I don't touch. So that's my kind of like my ceiling. So that's 3 months of expenses. It allows me to just really be mindful of, like, this is my zero point. Like, I'm not going into overdraft here. This is money that I don't want to touch, and it's kind of, let's say, emergency funds. So I recommend everybody having, like, it's kind of like your financial planner or advisor would tell any household that they should have some money set aside for some sort of emergency fund. And it's the same kind of thing, I think, in business. So, yeah.
Well, it sounds like you've learned a lot through the year.
It's been interesting, yeah.
It's been interesting.
Yeah.
But if you look at it, it's been a good ride, and
it's been a good ride. I think the other thing that I would say to other entrepreneurs, or that they're thinking about going into it, is you'll be surprised at what you can do, and you can do far more than you think you can. And at the end of the day, you do have to rely on yourself. It is totally fine to not think about the business for some time. Like, not gonna lie, yesterday I really didn't get off my couch and I needed to just unplug. And did I feel guilty about it? A hair. Because there's always something in me that says that I should. Like, oh, I should be working right now. No, I've been working my butt off. I should take some time for myself. So that's the other thing, is because I don't have a partner, it's all on me. So I have to be able to recognize when I'm at my end and make time to recharge.
And that is so important, right? Is your mental health and your mental well-being.
Yeah.
So if you look at everything that you've got here, and if I was to ask you 5 years ago, would you ever expect that
This was this?
that you would be this?
You know, the funny thing is sometimes I still walk in. It happens like now and again where I walk into the store and my first thought is, this is my store. And there's something just really fun and playful in the idea in my head, like, this is mine. And yeah, and then there's other days where I'm like, oh my God, this is my store. You know, same thing. But it is, I'm very proud of what I've accomplished. And I also think that, you know, it's like, for me, like I've talked about this with other entrepreneur groups, like failure is not an option. And it isn't. I never go in leading that failure is an option, but sometimes you have to pivot. And I think there's nothing wrong with pivoting in whatever your initial plan was. I think there's ways to be nimble and then continue to kind of look forward. So yeah, I would say that it's everything's a learning, and just be that open with yourself. Give yourself that grace to learn and be open.
Wow. Well, we'll be sitting back here next year to see how well you've done.
I'm game for it. Perfect.
Well, thank you so much, Leanne.
Thank you, Tracy.
And we'll see you next time behind closed doors.